I would play Foursquare like right now if I had 3 friends.
CGQ Plus.
All right, so before we get started with our topic for today, I have a pretty big stack of postcards that we need to go through first. So we'll try to plow through these. These are in no particular order, they're just in a pile on my desk. So the first one we've got here is from Craig in Wixom, Michigan, which is outside of Detroit, from what I looked up. And he says this postcard came from a comic book artist called Mickey Z. I never heard of that person, but that's a pretty cool postcard. It kind of reminded me like it's supposed to be like a patch, and it just kind of reminds me of like an Air Force patch or something. So I thought that was pretty cool. So thank you, Craig. The next one comes from Jason in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And I mentioned whatever the flashback episode was where I was talking about the Super Bowl and talking about moving from one house to the next. I mentioned that I had a friend, like a best friend, Sean, that moved away, and he actually moved to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. But this isn't him. But I just thought that was kind of cool. But so I thought this was a pretty funny postcard. I don't know what company is located in Cedar Rapids, but it says Cedar Rapids, friendly faces, open spaces, and advanced weapons technology. That's definitely a cool postcard. The next one, this is definitely a first on the show. So I think it was in the last flashback episode. I'm not really sure. We got a postcard from Chris in Hamden, Connecticut, and I was talking about Chris with a K and a pizza, New Haven style of pizza. Well, so now we have a postcard from Chris's kid. So that's pretty cool. So this is from 5-year-old Eric from Hamden, Connecticut. And I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool. I got a post. I know a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of people tell me they watch the show with their kids, which I think is really neat. And that's why I always make sure to keep it clean and everything. I thought it was kind of cool. He said, "I'm playing Mario Odyssey. I earned my Switch by eating vegetables and trying new foods." So anybody else out there, if you're watching the show with your dad and you're just a kid, make sure you eat your vegetables and mind your pop, so that maybe you'll get something cool too. Next postcard comes from Cody. This is Cody in Kelso, Missouri, and I'm pretty sure, Cody, I've read one of your questions on an episode of Q&A before because I recognize your name. And this postcard is from Lambert's Cafe. Wait for the camera to. And it says here, the only home of throwed rolls, not thrown rolls, but throwed rolls. I don't know what a throwed roll is. So, Cody, if you want to chime in and let everybody know, that would be cool. This next one comes from Ken in Detroit, Michigan, who I guess doesn't want a postcard in return. He didn't put his address, and then I reached out to him on Twitter, and he didn't respond. So, I mean, that's totally fine. I still appreciate you sending one into the show. And it says, "Farewell from Bizarro World." I don't know what that's making reference to, but it's a cool looking postcard anyway. And he says CGQ rocks. So thank you, Ken. Well, this looks kind of familiar. So we got another Beatles Abbey Road postcard, but this one is not from Beatles Rock Band. This is just a Beatles postcard. And this comes to us from John in Asheville, North Carolina. So when I think of Asheville, North Carolina, I think of the Asheville Tourists minor league baseball team. We got our first postcard from Southeast Asia when William in Taipei City, Taiwan, sent this postcard, which looks like I'm guessing you made this, William. It says on here that the front page is from a Japanese comic, but I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's like taped together, like he used like packing tape to make it almost like laminated. So it seems like he made this, which is really cool. So, and let me just cover up his address here. But he drew, you see that? He drew a Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. So that's pretty cool. I sent, obviously, all these postcards, I've sent back postcards already. I don't know how long it would take a postcard to get to Taiwan, but I assure you that your postcard is in fact in the mail. This next little envelope here comes from Eric in Warren, Ohio. And this is pretty cool. So he sent me an envelope because he sent me a bunch of postcards, which we also got from Mike up in Oregon. And in this case, so I guess the Packard Automobile Company must have been from Warren, Ohio, or something, at least in the area. Yeah, Warren, Ohio. And that is where the Packard Automobile Museum is now located. So he sent a card, like a greeting card, from the Packard Automobile Museum, and then he just sent some other postcards that he got there. I got 5 postcards here. Well, that's the coolest one, so I'll show that one. Well, this one's pretty neat too, though. So I mean, check out, like, they don't make cars like that anymore. I mean, look at the lines on that car, like that Art Deco 1930s kind of look. You know, cars now are so boring. That one's just, I mean, this one's just an exterior shot of the museum, but you can see that they're trying to make it look like the grill of a Packard car, and then it even has the hood ornament up there. So, you know, even the building has style. So that's pretty cool. And this one is just showing an old-timey photo of probably some married couple in their Packard. Look at this, the 1903 Packard Model K Special Gray Wolf. Pretty obviously a race car of some kind, 1903 race car. Probably has a top speed of like 60 miles an hour. But, you know, there was a time when people thought that cars were dangerous to ride in because if you went faster than like 20 miles an hour, like it would cause brain damage or something. And then the last one we've got here, it says America's most glamorous sports car, the new Packard Caribbean. That looks pretty awesome. I know I've seen a Packard before, but certainly they're very rare. And then we got another postcard from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And this one's like a panoramic cityscape here. It's not signed, but it's pretty obviously Marcelo's handwriting. So I'm assuming this is from you, Marcelo. I don't know if Marcelo's gotten his postcard back yet, but he says this is Avenue Paulista, and it's the most famous avenue in the region. He says he works in a building right in the middle of it, so that's pretty neat. So that's what Sao Paulo looks like. Pretty cool. And then I hit up the Classic Gaming Quarterly P.O. Box today, and I had 2 things, both from Canada, so that's pretty wild. The first one, I got a postcard here from Shane. Shane is ostensibly on Prince Edward Island. It says he's in Charlottetown, so I'm assuming that's on Prince Edward Island. And then check that out. I mean, that looks gorgeous. I'd love to go there. Prince Edward Island, for those that don't know, is way over on like the east coast of Canada, like just north of Nova Scotia. And Shane's been kind of a longtime fan of the show. I felt really bad. Shane really wanted to buy a t-shirt. But, you know, the U.S. Post Office just charges a ridiculous amount of money for international shipping, even if it's just to Canada. So figure that out. And then the last thing I got here, we got a package here from Canada. And I haven't opened it yet, but I'm pretty sure that I know what it is. I mean, it's obviously a magazine. Yeah. So this is very cool. I've been looking for this issue. Mostly because I wanted to read it on the show, but also just because I have a lot of good memories of this issue. So this is Nintendo Power issue number 2. So that's from September, October 1988. And I remember Jonathan having this issue in his backpack and bringing it to school. And, wow, what's this? Well, I don't want to read through the magazine right now. It says, Dear Nintendo Power Player, here is your insider's calendar. Thanks for being one of the first to subscribe to our new magazine. And then it has this fold-out calendar in it, so that's pretty neat. I don't want to go through the whole magazine now because I want to do a read-through of it. Although I'm not gonna be able to do it right away. I have 2 magazines that are both on loan to the show, and I've had them for much too long, and I really need to do the read-throughs of them so that I can return them to their owners. But you know, what a cool cover that's got. You know, so none of that plasticine modeling clay this time. It's just got some dude, you know, dressed up as Simon. And then obviously the cover story here is Castlevania 2. This issue's in really nice condition. He mentioned that it's got a little rip. It has like a little rip down here. Like, so what? I mean, overall, this looks so much nicer than the issues that I was looking at on eBay. And they wanted like at least $20, which, I mean, I don't mind spending $20 on a magazine for the show, but I would like it if it was at least in good condition, right? So, and then what else they cover in here? They got Bionic Commando, Life Force, like I guess a big 6-page spread on Life Force, Castlevania 2, as we said, Super Mario Brothers 2, RC Pro-Am, Renegade, Golgo 13, Blaster Master. So, I mean, certainly seems like that's going to be a really cool issue to go through. So thank you very much for sending this into the show, Colin. Oh, I didn't say his name. This is from Colin in Hanwell, NB. That's New Brunswick, right? Which if I'm up on my Canadian geography, I think New Brunswick is over in the same part of the world as Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, isn't it? Should have looked first, so I could be way off on that. But thank you, Colin. That's very generous of you, and I can't wait to read it on the show. So, we're kind of like zooming forward in time, I feel like, and there's like things that I want to talk about that I feel like if we start getting too far ahead of ourselves, then it's like too late. And it kind of occurred to me that I wanted to talk about Dodgeball. And I think anybody, whether you grew up in the United States or somewhere else, like, dodgeball had to be a big part of your childhood, especially at school. I don't think I ever really played dodgeball like outside of school, but, even like first or second grade, like that was a common thing to do during PE, when the whole class would go outside and like the teacher would sort of lead you in some kind of PE activity. And usually you do that like once a week. And, but I remember that, like first, second grade, we used to form a circle. In fact, I think there was a circle just painted onto the blacktop, out on the playground. And it was my memory was it was a pretty big, maybe 20-foot diameter circle. And everybody would get on the outside of the circle. And obviously a few people would have to get in. Or was it the opposite? Everybody would get into the circle and there'd only be a couple people outside the circle. And, the people on the outside of the circle would be throwing the ball and trying to hit the people inside the circle. And if they hit somebody, that person came on the outside of the circle. So the objective was you wanted to be the last person left inside the circle. And, we used to use those red playground balls. I'm sure everybody remembers the red playground balls, those red rubber balls. And, you'd have the little small ones, and then you'd have like the much bigger ones. And, I remember like we'd have sometimes you get those big balls that had gotten kind of like deformed. And they were almost like big eggs. Like you couldn't really bounce it or it would go off in some other direction. But you could still use it for dodgeball. But, when we were little kids, they would give us the big balls because they were harder to throw. And so you couldn't throw them as hard. So it was you couldn't really hurt anybody with that. But, later when you got older, you wanted the smaller balls that were like the size of a soccer ball because you could really, throw that quite a bit faster. And I remember at some point when I changed schools, when I moved away with my dad, I went to this school where they had this big brick wall it was like a cinder block wall, like a freestanding wall, like not part of a building. And we used to play dodgeball against the wall. So instead of being in a circle, you had the people that were against the wall, and then you had people that were like behind some line that was maybe like 20 feet away. And, once you'd be against the wall, and then once you got hit and you were out, then you would be, you'd have to go and you'd be one of the throwers. Then when I came back to like 5th, 6th grade, like I remember in 6th grade, the big deal on the playground was Foursquare. Like instead of playing dodgeball, because like I said, we wouldn't have like pickup games of dodgeball. It was like, okay, for PE today, we're playing dodgeball. Oh, you remember like if you had PE and it was raining outside, then maybe you'd go into like the multi-purpose room. And they would get that big parachute out and everybody would be like, lifting up the parachute and putting it down, or lift it up and then kids would run under the parachute. That was fun. But anyway, we never really played pickup dodgeball until later, which I'm going to get to. But when I was in like 6th grade, the big thing to do was Foursquare. And I have such nostalgic, awesome memories of playing Foursquare. Like I would play Foursquare like right now if I had 3 friends. But I mean, I think everybody knows how Foursquare works. Like, you had the big square that was maybe like 15 by 15, and that big square was like split into four smaller squares. And like the one square was like the server's square. Like the squares would be like numbered. Although I remember at least at my school they weren't painted on the blacktop numbered, but you would just know, okay, that's square 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And like square 4 was the server's square. And you'd always have a line of kids. Like, this is how popular Foursquare was at my school, is there was a line of kids waiting to come into square number 1. Because the way it worked is you had one of those little red rubber playground balls, and you would just have to hit it like in order, like from square 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you always wanted to be the server because then you got to set the rules, right? Like, I mean, you can look at there. I think there's a Wikipedia article just about like all the crazy rules of Foursquare with like, like bombs and corners and bubbles. And so if you were the server, then you could say, like no bombs, no corners, no volleys. Like we used to like that. You could set that as a rule. Like if you could hit the ball off of a volley, or if you had to let it bounce first. But anyway, and the way it would work is if you would get out because you weren't able to hit the ball into the next square, or you hit the ball but it was out, then you were out and you had to leave and go get in the back of that long line, and then everybody that was left would move into the next higher square. Like if you were in square 3, you left. Like square 2 came to square 3, 1 went to 2, and then whoever was at the front of the line would go into 1, right? And the whole idea was that if you could last long enough, eventually you could move into square 4 and like you'd become the server. And that was like when you were like the big shot, and it wasn't that often I got to become a server. And then it was like it would break your heart if you got knocked out like right away. Like you finally made it into the server square and then boom, you got knocked out. But we used to love playing that. We'd play it at lunch. We'd play it after school. We'd even play it at like recess, like morning recess, even though you only had like 10 minutes or something. But at some point, we stopped during 6th grade. We kind of stopped playing Foursquare because we started playing something that we called Nation Ball. And did anybody else call it Nation Ball? And it was, to us, it was similar to Dodgeball, but it had like different rules. But really what it was just actual Dodgeball. Like if you go play at like, Super Dodgeball on the NES, like that's what we were playing. So you had like the two big squares that were kind of up against each other, and like you had two teams, right? And one team was in one square, one team was in the other square, and then each team also had players on the ends, like, opposite of whatever square they were in, right? And I mean, we used to have a lot of fun playing that, and that would take like a whole lunch period to play like a full game of what we called Nation Ball. And the only reason I could think of why we might have called it Nation Ball is if you ever play Super Dodgeball on the NES, the teams are split up by country. But I don't know when that game came out, and I don't remember knowing anybody that had it, but at the same time, I remember either renting that game or playing it at somebody's house. So I don't know. I don't know if that's why we called it Nation Ball or what the deal was, but we had a lot of fun playing that, and I'm really not sure if we ever went back to playing Foursquare or not, because like I think mostly, Foursquare you'd have like guys and girls would all play. And then when we started playing Nation Ball, my memory was that it was mostly for guys, because, we would really, like, you'd try to throw that ball as hard as you could, because in Nation Ball, for sure, if you threw the ball and the guy you were throwing it at caught it, you were out, and you had to go stand on the end now, because now you were out of the square. And so we were really like winging that ball, and it's funny because, when you're that age, it's like, if you could like hurt somebody, like if you could throw that ball so hard and like hit someone in the thigh and get a reaction, then that like made you happy. Like, oh man, I got him. Now if you hit someone so hard, like if you hit somebody in the face and they started crying, God forbid, bleeding or something, then you wouldn't be happy anymore. But really it was only because now I might get in trouble. Like not because you actually felt bad. Like kids are like total psychopaths. But I think that is why the girls were just like, yeah, we don't want any part of that. But where was I going with that? I don't even remember. But it just reminds me of like, I read this book. It was called like The Secret Code of Baseball or something like that. And it was talking about how like one of the codes of baseball is that like if a player is in the batter's box and he gets beaned, like if you watch baseball, they never touch it. Like, they don't ever like show that they're in pain unless they're like, they'll go like walk around the batter's box and kind of walk it off, but like you never see them rub it. And so it just kind of reminds me of that when I think about playing something like Nation Ball, because like, you know, you try so hard to like really hurt somebody, and then, you know, they kind of wanted to try to make no big deal about it, right? So anyway, I don't know. I just, you know, when I think about being in like elementary school, you know, and thinking about like recess, I always think about Foursquare and Nation Ball. And really, once I left the 6th grade, that was the last time I ever played either of those games. When I got into like junior high school, we had ping pong tables, and you could go check out like 2 ping pong paddles and a ball. We used to play that a little bit. But when I got into junior high, I remember playing a lot of basketball. Like I had like a little group of friends. Like there was 4 of us total that would go play 2-on-2 basketball like every single day. And then I don't know what happened. I got into high school and that was it. I never like did any kind of sport or anything in high school. I think part of it was when I went to high school, like I didn't know anybody because I went to a different high school with all my friends. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't really know. But, you know, junior high, a lot of basketball, but elementary school was dodgeball and Foursquare. And I don't know, man, just thinking about that, you know, going into the cafeteria and getting that elementary school lunch, the rectangular pizzas, or, you know, getting the mashed potatoes and the turkey and like hollowing out the dinner roll and jamming all that stuff in there and eating that and washing it down with chocolate milk, going outside playing some Foursquare, talking about Nintendo. I mean, those were the days. But so anyway, I thought it would be kind of cool if for this episode, we'll play some Super Dodgeball on the NES, but what I'd also like to do, because I've never played it, is we'll check the game out on the PC Engine, because Super Dodgeball started out in the arcade and then was ported to the PC Engine, and from what I've read, that's supposed to be a more faithful port, because the NES version is not really a faithful port. They kind of modified it, as was common with arcade games brought to the NES. So I just figure let's check both of them out. So let's go. So I figure we'll do Super Dodgeball on the NES first, because that's probably the version that we're all more familiar with. So let's just play through maybe a couple of matches of this one, and that'll sort of like be our control. And then we'll load up the PC Engine version one, which, like I said, I've never played. Basically, my hope is just that maybe the game will be a little bit, I don't want to say better, because this is a cool game, but, you know, I think everybody knows that Super Dodgeball in the NES kind of suffers from some flicker, maybe even a little bit of slowdown. And I'm just kind of hoping that maybe the PC Engine version will be a little bit better about that. But we'll find out. So let's go ahead and load up a game here on the NES. Now, I always go for World Cup play. I don't really know what Beanball is, to be honest with you. I guess we could check it out. Maybe later. Well, let's just see what it is. Like I said, I have no idea what it is. So we'll do one player, obviously, and of course we're Team USA. That means... So I have no idea what this is. What am I supposed to be doing here? We're all running around. Are we all just hitting each other? Running around hitting each other? I think maybe so. Pretty much. It seems like it's like dodgeball free-for-all. I guess this would be more fun if you had like the Foursquare or the NES satellite, but this just kind of seems like chaos. So, I'm not super into this. Hopefully I can just do that and have it not screw up our recording. I think we're okay. Reload the game. Okay, so let's just go with World Cup play. That's what I'm used to. I leave the skill level at normal. This isn't that difficult of a game, so to play it on easy, I think is a little bit lame. I don't really understand why always when you get to the first round in World Cup play, it makes you play the All-Star team. That doesn't really make sense, but, I don't ever bother messing with the lineup, because I don't... What difference does it make? Now, as you can see here, we're starting off the game playing in the United States. I don't know if this is like on a rooftop or something. And you can see the Statue of Liberty there in the background. So, basically the setup is you've got 3 guys inside each square. And you're, wow, that was really good. I hit 2 guys with 1 shot there. See, 1 guy's already dead. See the little angel that floats up? That means that guy's, like, knocked out. So the point is to try to knock out the 3 guys that are in the square. Like, the guys that are on the outside of the square, they can hit you, but, you can't knock them out. Like, they're literally just there to, for, like, offense or whatever you want to call it. Now, you can see you can catch the ball when they throw it at you. Now I've already knocked out their 2nd player, and their 3rd player is down to 1 like hit point or whatever. So you can see like that little, oh, I got hit. So you see the little number that kind of pops up in green when a player gets hit. I guess that's like hit points. And when they get zeroed out, then they're out. So you can see there I caught the ball. You hold down B and you catch the ball. So if you double tap forward, he'll run. And then when he throws the ball, it's a little bit faster, a little bit harder, and so it will take off a few more hit points. Oh, there I won. I was going to show you, you can also jump up in the air by pressing both A and B at the same time and then throw it. I don't really know how much advantage that gives you, but it looks cool. So now we're playing against the British team, so you can see we're in London. And there's, I guess, the London Bridge in the background. I'll jump here. See, you can jump and then spike it. And then I hit that guy for 20 points. That's a lot. So now this guy's passing to one of the other guys. They're trying to get fancy, and then I got hit. You can also, like, when they're passing the ball overhead, you can jump up in the air and then try to intercept the ball. So you can see how bad the flicker is in this game, and the frame rate's not great either, really. But I mean, it's not like it's unplayable or anything. I mean, it's a cool game. I have never played the arcade version of this game, so I don't know what that's like. I don't even know if that came out here or not. I'm not saying it didn't. I just I don't know. For anybody that doesn't know, this was you know, I'm not real well versed on this, but like this game was part of the Kunio-kun series, which would also include like River City Ransom, Double Dragon, Double Dragon 2, Renegade, what we got here as Nintendo World Cup Golf. Like, that's why the characters all look the same. But I think I talked about this in one of the read-throughs where I was saying how, you know, because not all those games were even brought to this country by the same companies, I don't think it ever even occurred to us as American gamers that these games were all made by the same company in Japan, and they were all based on this like unified world, the Kunio-kun world. So there you go, we just dispatched the British, and so now we have to play against Team India, who I find to be pretty tough, which is weird because if you look at their little health bars or whatever, none of these guys really has that much health, but I generally find that playing against the Indian team actually takes a while. You can see what I guess is the Taj Mahal in the background there, so that's pretty neat. And then, of course, the music also changes for each level for, I guess, something that's supposed to be sort of culturally appropriate. I don't really know, but it sounds pretty cool. And here you can see we're playing on sand. And the last level we were playing on, like, cobblestone. And then, like I said, the American level, I don't know what that was. It just seemed like we were on, like, a rooftop in New York City. But then, like, I don't know why the ground looked like something you would have seen on, like, in, like, a WWF wrestling ring in, like, the 80s or something. So you can see, like, I hit that guy, but only took off 2 hit points, so... That's why I'm saying, like, these Indian players, they seem like they don't have a lot of hit points, but then at the same time, like, I guess they have, like, high constitution or whatever, to use another Dungeons and Dragons term, although I may not have even used it correctly. But I mean, I think you can see where, like, this would be a fun game, but, you know, again, the flicker is really bad. You know, if you guys caught that a little bit earlier, there was a little segment there where, like, the characters along a line, like, completely disappeared. I think it has something to do with, like, the limitations on how many sprites can occupy a line on the screen. Oh, that was nice. I hit 2. So I don't think there's anything really that could have necessarily been done about it, you know, with the limitations of the NES hardware. But as I was saying during the intro, like, this is the game that I recall playing on the playground when I was a kid, but we called it Nation Ball for some reason. I don't... But it seemed likely that, you know, maybe somebody played Super Dodgeball in the arcade or something and decided to just, like, play it in real life. I hit 2 guys again. Okay, so that just took out 2 of their guys with 1 shot. So now all they've got left is Swami there. So, like, I don't know if somebody just figured we could play that game on the playground, and that's why we started playing this game. I mean, certainly I think we had more than 6 people per side, but I could be wrong on that. But in my memory, it seems like we always had, like, a lot of kids playing. So you see, that was like a super shot, and it still only took one hit point off of that guy. So we'll make this the last match we'll play on the NES version, and then I'll go ahead and unplug my Nintendo, and we'll plug in the PC Engine, and we'll check that version out. So basically what I'm hoping is that maybe it won't have so much flicker, maybe the graphics might be a little bit more colorful, but we'll see. Like I said, I've never played it, so I'm really not sure. I'd like to just try to finish this one match if I can, but, you know, I think you can see that this match has already taken way longer. See, again, it only took 1 hit point off of that guy. This match has taken way longer than the others. Ah, I got 2 points that time, so now he's down to his last little life bar, so hopefully this one's almost over. Like I said, we won't play anymore, but I guess I'm kind of curious just to see who the next match would be against. Because I believe I read that there's a couple extra teams in this version, but I could be wrong. Oh, nope, still not. So, I mean, this gets a little bit repetitive, you know? I mean, if you were playing this game 2-player, I think that would be cool, but, you know, like right here, like this is starting to drag on. There we go. Alright, now we got him. But I see that took a while. And you can see it wasn't even really a good match. I mean, my guys are all in very good health. Oh, now we play Iceland. So let's just see what the Iceland level looks like, and then I'll go ahead and turn it off. I'm just curious. Like, probably you're playing on a sheet of... Yeah, that actually looks pretty sweet. But I don't think it's going to affect... Like, it's not like your dudes slide around, really, or anything. And you can see those guys actually have a lot of health, so... I could see this match taking quite some time. So, wow, I hit all 3 guys. That's crazy. Sorry, I know I said I'd turn it off, but... Maybe this wouldn't take that long. Alright, well anyway, so I'm going to turn off the Nintendo now, and I just have to plug in the PC Engine real fast and then make a little change on the FrameMeister. So just 1 quick second. And then I just have to change... Well, I guess I don't have to, but, well, it'll look better. I have like little profiles for all of the different consoles. I didn't make these. A guy named Firebrand X makes these. He has a YouTube channel, by the way, where he shows how to make these for both the FrameMeister and the OSSC. So if you want to learn how to make profiles, then you should check the guy out. Okay, now it should be as pixel perfect as possible. In case anybody's wondering what you're looking at right now, this is the graphical user interface or whatever of the Super SD System 3, which I'm working on making a review of. But basically, it's like an EverDrive, but you can also load Turbo CD games, which a lot of people over the years have asked about that on my Turbo EverDrive review video over on the other channel. And somebody finally made something that does that, although it's appreciably more expensive, but I think it's worth it. So we just have to find Super Dodgeball. It's called, you know, Neketsu Oh, here we go. Why are there two of them? Oh, that's the soccer game. Okay, so we're not playing the soccer game, though. So here we go. So now the game is going to load. There we go. So that looks pretty colorful, hey? So this version was put out by Naxat Soft, but I don't think that's actually who developed it. I think they just published it. I'm going to assume that if I go with number 1, that's one player. What is this? Wow. Oh, this one's got a ref. Well, that guy is huge. Alright. Well, this definitely runs quite a bit more smoothly. I don't see any flicker. What it might look like flicker is just that it is... oh, man. Oh, so in this one, if you try to throw the ball when you're over the line, you have to drop it, which makes more sense. But you can see now you've got 4 players per side instead of 3. So that's pretty cool already. And it's got, I guess, a little bit of speech if you want to... Ouch, if you want to call it that. But, I mean, this game is quite a bit more impressive. What is that? I guess Mount Fuji in the background, and you can see, like, those cherry blossom... like, aren't those cherry trees with cherry blossoms on them? I shouldn't even say that because I'm not sure, but... I can't really hear the game because I have the volume turned down most of the way, but... this definitely looks pretty cool. But I don't speak or read any Japanese at all, so I don't know what these teams are. Like, I don't know if they're supposed to be, like, national teams. They don't seem like it. Ooh. But this game is pretty cool. We already got one of their players out. We got another one who's... Ooh, down to his butt. That just got another one out. I gotta say, Ooh, we got the big guy out. I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. There also was a version of Super Dodgeball on the Super Famicom. And on the Game Boy Advance as well. I think I had the Game Boy Advance cartridge at one point, because I think somebody sent it to me for, like, Secret Santa. But I don't believe... I'm pretty sure I got rid of it. There, we won our match. That's pretty cool. But, I mean, you can see where it's basically the same game. I mean, we got these cool cutscenes. That's pretty neat. I'm assuming that now these guys are... Yeah, we're getting on Naxat Airlines. And we're flying... Okay, so it is national teams. So I don't know what that first one was, but now we're in England. Oh, so now you can see, you know, this is basically the same level we had before. There's the London Bridge in the background, and Big Ben, etc. Westminster Abbey, I think, or whatever the hell it is. I don't really know. It's got the same, like, cobblestone floor, or whatever you want to call it. But, you know, the colors are a little bit better, and you can see that this game is completely flicker-free. So... You know, if you happen to have a TurboGrafx and an EverDrive and, you know, you're looking for something cool to play, or, you know, maybe, like me, I mean, I always liked the idea of Super Dodgeball on the NES, but I have to be very honest and say that all of its graphical issues are kind of a turn-off for me. I mean, I guess they still are, but it's kind of what kept me from enjoying the game a lot back in the day, and even once I got back into playing games. Like, there's just too many good games to really waste time playing a game with, like, bad graphical issues, in my opinion, so... I guess there's exceptions to that, of course. Oh, wow, we lost one of our guys. We lost our big guy. They lost one of their guys, too, so maybe it's not too bad. That was a terrible throw. You notice that this game doesn't have the little numbers over everybody's heads when they get knocked out. So I guess you just kind of have to look up above and see what their health bar looks like. We just lost another guy. Pass it over here. If you push and hold down the B button too soon before the ball gets there, you don't catch it. It's like you have this little window of when you need to push it. And that goes for the NES version as well. Like, if you're just always holding down B, you're not going to catch it. Which makes sense, because that would be like cheating. Anyway, I mean, I don't know what else to show. I mean, that's probably enough Super Dodgeball, right? But, I mean, you can see where, you know, both versions are cool games, but I'm really glad to see that this one is good. Like I said, I wasn't BSing you guys. I really never played this game before, and so I was kind of worried that maybe it was going to end up not being good or something, you know, like, just because it's on better hardware doesn't automatically mean it's going to be a better game, and like a good example of that would be the PC Engine version of Golden Axe, which is pretty terrible. Well, if he's just going to stand there, I'm going to just... there we go. That's pretty cool. The little angel has a little red cross on his chest. I don't know if you guys caught that. So we lost 2 of our guys there, but we ended up surviving the match. Now we're running down the runway again. We're going to get on Naxat Airlines. Reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember PSA. What was PSA? It was like Pacific Southwest Airlines. When I was a kid, it was almost like the version of Southwest back then, because it was like a cheap airline. So now we're in, are we in Iceland? I don't know, I was talking, I wasn't paying attention, but you see we're playing on ice again. We got some penguins in the background, some igloos. That's pretty neat. Little graphical touches like that are pretty cool. I just took out 3 guys with 1 shot there, so that's good. So I'm not going to play too much longer. I'm trying to think if there's something else as long as we're already here and I already have the PC Engine hooked up, if there's anything else I want to check out briefly, but maybe not. You know, not every video has to be a freaking hour long, right? So, but I mean, I hope you guys found this one entertaining. I just kind of feel like, sometimes I feel like we're moving too quickly, you know, just through time, talking about, you know, whatever we're talking about in general on Flashback. I just think that there's other things that, you know, I kind of want to talk about, like just Dodgeball and Foursquare. It was funny though, because today at work I asked 2 people if they played Foursquare growing up, and you know, the first guy was like, "Oh yeah, obviously," and the other guy said that never. I don't know. He said they played something else. I forgot what. But so I don't know. I guess I'll probably just stop the video right there. Like I said, maybe not the best version of Flashback, but I just feel like how can you talk about elementary school without talking about Dodgeball and Foursquare? And this was a cool excuse to check out Super Dodgeball. So, yeah, I don't know. That's probably enough of that. So, you know, that's going to do it for this episode of CGQ Plus, and I hope it was entertaining. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys again pretty soon.